Exactly.
All right, gentlemen. Well, let's move into the program. Tim Kincaid, thank you so much for interviewing Chris Cooper. As Tim, of course, needs no introduction. He's the principal at Kincaid and Associates in consulting, an incredibly talented coach, and someone that is just a great, wonderful contributor to the Gay Coaches Alliance. So thank you, Tim. I'll hand it over to you.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for the kind words. I'm just so happy to actually have a conversation with Chris Cooper, who is in Manchester, England now. Is that right? It looks like it's nighttime there.
It's nighttime, yes.
Yeah. Chris is one of our newer members. But he and I had a great, to plan this, had a great conversation by phone, and he's an impressive man, and his journey is like all of ours, but his is a unique journey to coaching. And so I think I'd love to start out with that, and then he's going to share with us, some 7 learnings on his on coaching, on being a newish coach. So, Chris, tell us a little about yourself and how you got to coaching.
Yeah, so my journey into coaching, actually, although I'm based in England, my journey into coaching actually started in the US. So I finished my last job. I was working in sports as an operations director for a sports business. And my role came to an end. There was some transition at the business, and I left in March 2015. And I spent the rest of the year not really knowing what I wanted to do, looking for other roles in the sports industry. There wasn't really anything that really caught my eye. Didn't really want to get an operations job anywhere else. And I came to New York in January 2016 on holiday, and it was that time when we had that really, really deep snow in New York, and it was all the airports were closed, and it was really quite dramatic being out there. And I remember I was on a food walking tour around Greenwich Village, which was fab. I love food, and it's so cool being in New York for something like that. And one of the places that we stopped off at was it's a lady who had an oat cookie cafe business. And she was really excited because she was about to franchise this business, and I got to talking to her, and I was thinking, God, this would be a cool thing to do. I have no idea what to do with my life right now. I was in a pretty low place before I went away. And I thought, I could do this. I could open my own cafe. And then reality sets in. I think, okay, I'd like to work for myself. I'd like my own business doing something, but actually maybe right now it's not the right time to introduce oat cookies to Manchester. But that kind of seed of wanting to do something myself was planted, and I got back home and I went out for coffee with a friend, and we just started to talk about, well, actually, what can you do? What can you offer? And, it's a really great conversation with my friend Gareth, and I came to the realization that out of all the different careers that I've had, because I worked as a flight attendant for quite a few years. I worked in retail, then I worked in real estate as a surveyor before moving into sport and working as a program manager and an operations director. But I realized that what kept me transitioning on and what actually drives me the most is that love of wanting to help other people achieve their potential. And in talking about this, I realized and I remembered there was such a thing as a life coach. It just kind of triggered something in my head. I remembered from years ago watching a TV program from when I was at university in my early 20s, and there was this program called Would Like to Meet, which is on the BBC over here, and they had this really handsome life coach on there, and the show was all about helping people who hadn't had a date in years to kind of sort out their wardrobe, how they view life, and get them to a point where they feel happy. And there was this life coach on there called Jeremy. He was so dashing and handsome, and I thought, God, I'd love to be like Jeremy. But that went to the back of my head in my early 20s. But then I remembered that, and I thought, you know what, maybe I could do that. So I did some research, went on a free 2-day course over here, in life coaching with the Coaching Academy. And I went there kind of about 95% sure I wanted to do it. And I went away after 2 days of learning more about it. And I felt like I'd kind of discovered myself. I'd never been in such a room where everyone was so warm and engaged in what everyone was saying. And I just felt like I'd found my tribe. And that really was the start of my journey. So that was back in March 2016, so just about 3 years ago.
Great. Yeah. I think you're telling a lot of our stories. Just there's elements of it that, that kind of sound familiar from just sharing stories with these other folks. So question for you is, have you always been somebody who people approached? They said, you're a great listener, and wow, you're so wise. You got, you give good advice, and people were seeking you out anyway. Is that been your experience?
Yeah, I mean, when I look back from sort of being a teenager, out of all my friends, I was always the one that everybody would come to. I remember one of the jobs I used to have when I was I used to work in retail in my late 20s, and it was like only kind of weekend staff there, but I was kind of the one that everybody came to, and I'd be in one part of the store, and everyone would come to me one after the other, wanting help and advice with things, and it did kind of remind me that maybe I fulfilled that role in people's life, that somebody that can help people with their problems, and maybe that's something that stuck with me as something that I know that I could do, and I enjoyed doing.
Yes, yeah. I think you're telling the story, sharing a story that's similar to a lot of us. I think we just sort of have a natural talent for that. Well, so it sounds like that being an entrepreneur is something that also has appeal for you. Some of us got into coaching and it's like, oh shit, now I got to set up a business. Whereas it sounds like, and just from our conversations, it sounds like you actually kind of like that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I used to find that bit quite scary. My previous job, I worked for a guy who was an Olympic medalist in swimming over here, and he had a really big personality, really extrovert, and he set up his own business after he retired from sport. And I used to look at what he did and be in awe, really, and I loved working for him, but I thought at the time I could never do this myself, actually never have my own business. And it was really when I was in that point where I wasn't working and I started doing other types of work, working for myself. And it was that point I realized that actually I like working for myself. It works for me better than working for somebody else. And actually all the stuff that comes into running your own business. I'd learned so much of that anyway in my previous role. All the HR stuff, the accounts, all the stuff that you do in running a business. I'd learned that in my roles along the way, and actually, it didn't seem that scary. The idea of working for myself. So I was actually really excited to take on the idea of having my own business as well as being a coach.
Wow. Well, good. So why don't you, and let's just invite anybody else if they have a comment or question, to jump in. But why don't you jump in? And you got these 7 learnings from a new coach.
Yeah.
Would love to start. Why don't we go through some of those?
Yeah. So I put them onto a slide. So how do I share? Do you share screen? Is it on here?
Yeah, there should be a little green box down at the bottom.
Right.
It says share.
Share. Oh yeah, I've got that. Yeah. Is there a particular mode that I should put it in? So to try and share a PowerPoint.
You're going to want to put it on whatever your application is. So if it's a PowerPoint, that should be one of the options that shows up, I think.
Yeah. Let's see. Does that?
Great.
Does that work? Then
yes.
I put that into slideshow mode. Play through. Is that working?
It is. It's kind of zoomed in a lot, though.
Oh, okay. Right. Maybe if I just take it off slideshow mode. I'll just leave it as a screen like this. That's fine. Shall I just leave it like that? Okay. Okay. So, all right then. So, yeah. So, I'll give you a little bit of background as to why I wanted to talk about this today, because I've been coming on these calls since October last year, and one thing that's really struck me from being in attendance is just how much amazing experience and variety of talent that we have within the group. And when Harry was very kind enough to ask me to be interviewed on one of these calls, I thought, well, what do I have to offer? You know, I've been sat listening to people who've got, in some cases, decades of experience at doing what they do. So I thought, well, maybe talk about what is a good thing for me, which is, okay, I'm a relatively new coach, and so, okay, I don't have the lots and lots of experience, but I've had a real journey in the past 3 years since starting on this. So actually, I've got some learnings that I'd like to share, and maybe through the process, so you guys who've been coaching for longer than me, maybe you can share in some of these things, and maybe something that starts a conversation, and just maybe get something going that you maybe remember from being a new coach, and maybe still resonates now. But the first one I wanted to touch on is something that I feel all coaches feel pressure with when you become a new coach, and that's actually working on which area you want to work on. So discovering which niche is right for you. I know in the US you say niche, but I'm English, so it's niche for me. And that's such a hard thing to do, isn't it? And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I felt that I had the pressure of needing to earn money, obviously, because I wasn't doing anything else work-wise. I was just taking on little bits of work, doing other stuff just to help pay the bills. So there was the pressure of feeling like I should work with anyone who came along. And there is this pressure to find a niche right from the start, but actually I think it takes some time to discover that. I don't think that necessarily comes straight away, but I do think it's really important actually to find what your niche is, because that's when the people who you want to work with understand more about what you do, and otherwise there can be this danger of trying to appeal to everybody and not appeal to anybody when you're trying to market yourself. And that was a real learning for me. And in terms of what I decided was right for me, I realized that what I have to share is all to do with career, because I've had so many career changes and done really diverse things in my career. And one thing that my friends often had said to me is, I can't really see how your career works. You go from one thing to the next. And I've managed to do that quite fearlessly, but I know that's not necessarily an easy thing to do. And I also know what it's like to be stuck in a career that you absolutely hate as well. So I feel really passionate about helping people find the right career for them. And so that's what's led me down this niche to work as a career coach. But I also feel really passionate about wanting to work with organizations to help them improve employee well-being and have more diversity in organizations. So that's what I'm going to be pursuing as well. But it's all hung around career, workplace and well-being, so actually people in their journey through work are able to fulfill their potential on their own terms as well. So I think it takes time. I don't think it happens straight away. I think you can sometimes feel pressure to find a niche straight away, but I think it's important that you do so, but allow yourself the time to find what works for you.
It sounds like that in addition to coaching, you're also going to do, you're talking about a little consulting work as well. Is that, the well-being, the organizational?
Yeah, that's something that's very new. That's one of my 2019 goals that I'm working on. So as much as I want to develop my coaching, it's actually working on the consulting side as well. That sort of comes into one of the items I'm going to sort of talk about a little bit later on here. But yeah, that's something that I feel really strongly about as well. What skills can I bring to the table? And it's not just coaching. There's other stuff I can do as well. And I think we can all do that. I'm sure most of us already do that.
Yeah. So it's beyond a branding thing. It sounds like it's about how people get you, and the attraction that you have. If, as you said, if you try to appeal to everybody, you may not appeal to anybody.
Yeah, that's it. And also, I think it's about, in terms of when you market yourself, one thing I started to do, and I still need to change this on my website, I would talk about different coaching services that I offer. But I'm going to start talking about myself more in terms of the expertise that I offer. And my expertise is in certain areas, so career, well-being, diversity. And within that, I have certain skills which I will use, one of which is coaching, but there will be other things as well. So the niche, you know, it can be an industry thing, and you can draw different skills, including coaching within that.
Well, I love what you're pointing toward here about allowing yourself time to discover, because it, in my experience and some other folks that I've talked to in this business, in this world, it emerges and evolves over time. And sometimes, you know, I know that there are some people I wanted to work with. I thought I did, and until I worked with some, and then decided this is not where I really want to point. And others surprised me. And so, just as you said, by allowing myself to, the time to discover that thing, and having full permission to make that shift. You know, I may have said this is what I want early on, but you know, I can choose again. And it just, you know, that just takes some patience, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think it changes over time. You know, just because the one particular audience is right for you now doesn't mean in 10, 20 years' time it's going to be the same. I think it's going to be quite fluid. And you know, that's one of the things that we work with our clients on, isn't it? Having that flexibility to be able to change and do what's right for them. And it's the same for us as coaches with our businesses.
Yeah. There's something experimental about this too. Isn't there? Right? Going to be exploring.
Certainly, and you know, I think sometimes there can be this, as I mentioned before, it can feel like there is a pressure to be able to hit the ground running. You know, you finish your coaching diploma, the certificate arrives through the post. So, okay, now I'm a coach. I should have a successful business straight away. It doesn't happen like that, and I know I certainly put a lot of pressure on myself right at the start. And I know, you know, from other coach friends who trained at the same time as me, who've shared experiences with, you know, that it's been a common thing. But allowing yourself time to grow into your new profession, your new role, is something that's really important.
Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I'll mention, I think, Chris, thank you. This really resonates for me. With the niche, I also find, personally, it's been an opportunity for me to learn discernment, because as I get more engaged with opportunities and meeting people, people will recognize, oh, you know, join this thing or try this. And so I've gone down a couple avenues which I realized weren't the right ones, because I was kind of allured by someone saying I was great, or someone being complimentary or something. So being able to trust also in finding the niche that feels right, kind of like aligns, it makes sense with the head, but also kind of checking in with my gut. And so it's a discernment process of like, and it's part of the discovery or the experiment. I think Tim said about sort of figuring out where the path starts to be revealed. But I've gone down a couple of dead ends basically, but that's good. So because I've actually learned to say no, thank you, more in a way that's really powerful, because it points me in the direction I need to go. So
nice.
Thank you. Yeah.
So moving on to the second learning that I have on there. So, and I think this is a really important one. Spend at least as much time on developing your business skills as your coaching skills. And this is something that a few of us have mentioned already. You know, we work most of the time on our own in our own businesses. And there's a lot to do. It's not all about coaching. There's so much we need to do, particularly in terms of areas like marketing. And one thing I learned in my first 2 years certainly is that I did my first coaching diploma, then I did my NLP diploma, and I could see other people who I was training with were just then going on and wanting to do more and more qualifications, believing they needed to learn more and more skills to be an effective coach. But actually, you need to trust in what you've actually learned already, and you are enough to be able to work with your clients when you've got that first coaching diploma. And I think it's just in our very nature that we are personal development junkies and we want to improve, which is a fantastic thing to do. At the same time, though, we are business people and we need to develop our business skills. So there are other qualifications that I want to do. There's other things I want to study. I recognize that, I can't do everything all at once. And actually, if I want to turn coaching into a sustainable business, having those business skills is really important. There's a group that I attend locally to me, a coaching circle around here, and I go along and attend, and some people they'll sit there and they've been coaching a while and they complain about not really having many clients, and I can soon see they're very green in areas like marketing. And if you're going to turn what you love, what you're passionate about as in coaching into something where you can go out there and affect as many people's lives as you can, and make it a sustainable way of earning your income, the business side of it is just as important as learning more and more coaching skills.
I wish I were clearer on that in my early days, because I know I wanted to coach. I know I wanted to consult. I want to bring all this goodness to the world. What I wasn't ready for, or maybe a surprise, and I'm not sure why, was being a small business owner and an entrepreneur. And those are not things that I set out to do. Those are that's sort of the container or the vehicle to get my stuff out in the world. So it sounds like you're comfortable in that realm, and have embraced that earlier. And
yeah, I mean, for me, it was as soon as I'd got my diploma, and we're coaches before the diploma arrives through the post, because we've been coaching already. But that's when it feels more real. But I knew straight away I needed to start earning money doing what I was doing. And so, as much as I would love to, carry on and doing lots and lots of other diplomas, it just wasn't practical for me to do, and it probably isn't for most of us. But we can carry on and do our personal development in other ways. I'm sure we're all great readers. We've got constantly a shelf full of books that we're trying to get through because we want to learn so much and add more value to our clients. But for me, building a website was a big thing. I built all my own website myself, and I'm proud of myself for doing that. I'm not sure I would do it again because it took so much time to do it. Learning how to use WordPress and developing a website through that is a skill in itself. I was trying to save money and I was interested in that area as well. But there's that, learning how to do Facebook ad campaigns and everything else. All of these things are things that we need to learn, and we need to invest as much time in those areas as we do on the coaching stuff, which we'll do anyway. We develop every time we coach a new person. We're never the same person after a coaching session. We always learn something new, and when we reflect on that, those are great learnings, as well as doing other diplomas or whatever else we might choose to do. Yeah. So moving on to the third one I've got there, work smartly and beware of expensive shortcuts to success. Now, this is a big learning for me. So, there's so many programs out there which claim that enroll with us and we will have you earning 6 figures within 6 months. Webinar-based selling, and you can have this massive business that grows in no time. And I was one of those people. I enrolled in one of those programs, and I spent money that I didn't have, and I'm still paying back the debts from doing so. And I've spoken to so many different other coaches who I've met in different places who've gone down a similar path and had a similar painful learning. I mean, I look on that experience in terms of the fact that I've made some good friends through that process, and I learned a lot. However, at the same time, it was a really expensive learning to make, and my learning, particularly from that, was that there aren't any shortcuts to success. We have to put the hard work in, and the stuff that we might not like doing, some stuff that might not feel necessarily that comfortable, like, for example, going out and doing lots of networking or whatever it might be. But you know, you can't purchase something off the shelf that all of a sudden is going to make you have a successful business. It just doesn't work like that. And I thought, you know, in my naivety at the time, I could suddenly create this six-figure business by working with this guy to create this program. But it didn't work. But it taught me lots of lessons. So that's how I look at that now. But, you know, apart from that, there is the working smartly, because, you know, we do work by ourselves, most of us, and it's learning the things that we can outsource and, you know, get other people to do for us. So whether that's little bits of marketing we can pay other people to do, whether it's using software to help us with things that might take us a long time to do otherwise. But, you know, we've only got so much time in the day. So learning to work as smartly and automate things as much as we can, finding ways to pay other people to do stuff where we can afford to do so, and just that smart working ethos is really important when you're trying to grow your own business. Absolutely.
There's so many products and services and people saying, buy this, you have to do that, you must do this. There's only one, you know, this is the only way, and you have to buy it from me. What I found that this Gay Coaches Alliance and the conferences, and the Alliance, all of it, there's a wealth of experience and a generosity in this group that I've leaned into and gotten so much help with, you know, if Terry Hildebrandt, and, you know, if I was looking for an assessment, he made, where do you start? And he was very generous in pointing me toward, here's some good ones for your toolkit. And he was right. And, but also was helpful in maybe I didn't want to get certified in it. Maybe he or someone else was certified in it. They would do the, you know, do the assessment, maybe even do the debrief with me there. I get to keep the client, and you know, I certainly compensated him for his trouble and for his expense. But it was a partnering opportunity, and it was something that I felt I was working smartly, because I was leveraging and leaning into a relationship and actually building a relationship with him.
Yeah, and that's it. And there are so many ways we can partner with other people. There's lots of other people who will have the same values as ourselves, but who do slightly different things. And I think instead of being afraid of working with other people and feeling that we should be trying to do this by ourselves, it's great to seek out those opportunities, because, you know, it's quite a lonely thing otherwise sometimes, trying to grow a business. And one thing I really missed when I started doing this was in my previous job. You know, I used to hate meetings at times, but you'd have other people around you to talk about, you know, what was going on with work. But actually, you know, you don't have that when you're working for yourself, and developing that network of other like-minded people around you who understand where you are is really, really valuable.
Yes. Yeah, you have to. All the things from working somewhere and working for someone else, a lot of those things you have to, you know, replicate on your own. And suddenly, without the mothership, you suddenly are the HR department and the help desk and marketing and all those things.
Yeah. So moving on to my next learning there, and this is one of my relatively recent ones, is develop other areas to complement your coaching. And for me, I kind of realized I've always quite liked doing training, and I'd done done training in-house in my previous jobs, and really enjoyed that. And last year, because I wanted to improve my skills at networking and going out into events and feeling comfortable going to business events and showcases and talk about what I do, I started to do some work at developing my public speaking skills. And in doing that, I discovered a new passion, which is to actually speak and just stand in front of a room and speaking to people. And so I learned there, actually, this is something else that I can do. And that's kind of what led me down this path in my goals for 2019, to develop other areas of my business and around the diversity and the well-being areas, is to actually go out there and be a speaker and be a trainer. And it takes the pressure off your coaching, because I think it's hard to earn the income that you want to earn purely from coaching. And having something else that you do means that you're spreading your eggs around, and you're not having to just rely on one particular area. But also, if you're doing something that complements what your coaching offer is, maybe you might start working with a client delivering some kind of training, but then you actually get in there and do a bit of executive coaching with them. Or the other way around, you start coaching somebody and, we need to upskill our employees in this area, so training can come into it. So that's been a learning for me, in the last sort of 6 to 9 months, and something that I'm really excited to actually have, two strands to what I do: the coaching, the speaking, and the training. Which I'm going to develop forwards. And I'm sure everybody on this call has got more than one area in terms of what they do, and I think it's certainly given me more confidence and brought more excitement, more belief that I can succeed doing this, knowing that I'm going to be working in doing more, using more than one skill.
And you are at the conference, you're doing a workshop on speaking. Is that right?
Can I get the first plug-in of our calls?
You are.
Yeah, so I'm doing a workshop around public speaking, and this is something that, as I say, it's relatively new to me, but I learned the value of it. So I'm going to be doing a workshop there around how you can very quickly learn to do a very short presentation, stand up, whether it's on a stage or whether it's doing a Facebook Live or something like that, and talk without scripts for a few minutes about what you do, and do it confidently with authenticity. Because I think that's something that's really valuable for us all to learn. Everyone with their own business needs to learn how to do this. And it's something that I've learned relatively recently, and so I know it can be picked up relatively quickly. So I'm very excited to share some of the things that I've been working on recently, and hopefully help some of the other guys who come along to the conference as well.
Good. Yeah, some of the, develop other areas that complement your coaching. Have you found that, or I've found, and maybe you have too, that drawing on the coaching skills, the coaching that capabilities, that kind of informs and infuses everything. And actually, when I'm consulting or speaking or presenting or teaching or whatever I'm doing, there's a coach approach to it often that that has been very useful. So are you drawn on your coaching skills in these other areas too?
Yeah, without a doubt. And
yeah,
having those skills makes you a more intuitive trainer. And I think you can have much more of an impact in that area as well. I mean, come on, let's face it, if you've got coaching skills, you can enhance pretty much anything that you do, can't you? But certainly, it's like training and speaking, certainly it's a really valuable thing to have. So yeah. So moving on to my next one, number 5, notice characteristics in the clients who are attracted to you. So this is something that's again been a learning, probably in the last year in particular, is really noticing the people who book discovery calls with me, who reach out to me through social media and express interest in my services, and actually noticing what things these people have in common. Because the message that you put out there, how you present yourself, will lead to the people that come to you. So it's valuable in terms of being able to make sure you're consistent with your message in terms of if you're in terms of appealing to the people who you want to work with. But also, I think for me as well, there's been a learning of the type of people who I enjoy working with, and who I can give most value to, through noticing, the people who come to me. So the inquiries that I get through to me are remarkably similar now, and maybe it's because I've got the content on my website that explains what I do well, but maybe it's just the energy thing. You put that energy out there, that's what you get back. Maybe I'm developing some consistency in those areas, but noticing those characteristics enables me to then, as I talk more about what I do, I can bring that more into it, and be stronger, and be more authoritative, more authentic in terms of talking about what I do, by noticing more about the people who I work with.
Mm. Have you found the people that characteristics, are they like you? I mean, do they have aspirationally they want to be like you, or?
I wouldn't say I want to be like me, but I think probably similar path and similar learnings. From my own personal learnings, I think you get to this stage, and I did, and I've found this with a lot of the clients I've worked with, getting to that point into your mid-30s where you get really dissatisfied with your career. In your early 20s, you can be very, you have all these aspirations for what you want to do. You think, at a certain stage in life, you're going to have all the things that you wanted to have. And then you get to a point, in that middle phase of life, into your 30s and 40s, and actually realize, I've not achieved what I want to achieve. And that leads to that feeling of dissatisfaction and not being sure what to do next. And those are pains that I've been through myself. And so I really recognize those pains in other people. And I get really excited when I talk to people like that, because I know, I've been there, I know what that's like. And so I know that I can help you get there. And, when you have that clear message, clear understanding of and have been in that situation yourself, it makes you come across so much more strongly when you talk to them in that initial meeting, and it means that they're attracted and want to work with you. That's my tribe that's been drawn to me so far. Got to that point, and actually, things aren't living up to my expectations, and I need to do something about it.
Well, noticing characteristics in the clients attracted to you, what you just said that I wanted to ask about was, you got very excited or energized, or you get excited and energized by certain kinds of people. Is that kind of part of the noticing, I guess, is noticing what you have energy around?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Because it's when I recognize that somebody has been somewhere that I've been before, and I know how to find a way out of that. It's like, yeah, you need to do this. And obviously, as coaches, we don't advise people; we coach them to that point. But having been in that position, knowing that I've been in their shoes in the past, it gets me excited, because, as I say, what turns me on the most with work is helping other people to move forwards. And so, when I speak to people and they tell me, yeah, this is where I'm at, it's like, God, yes, this is like, yeah, I really want to work with you. And so I feel really excited about then presenting myself in a way that is going to make them want to work with me. So I can get them to that place where they want to get to.
We've heard that from at several conferences and on several calls about being a gay coach. About, you don't have to be a gay person to coach a gay person. But often it builds trust, rapport quickly, that you don't have to translate. They get you, or they feel like you get me, or something. So there's, I don't know, just a quick rapport building. Often, if you have that shared experience.
Yeah, and it can be a shared experience in lots of ways. It can be down to sexuality. It can be, say, career is my area. But yeah, it's finding that common ground, isn't it, that helps you to build that rapport. And those are the people that you want to work with, and who ultimately want to work with you.
Right.
Yeah. So yes, that's been a big one for me in the last year. Then number 6 there, get out there and meet people to talk about what you do. Now, this is something that didn't come comfortably for me at all. I spent my first year in building my business feeling comfortable, sat at home building websites, doing Facebook ads and all the rest of it, and just being sat in the room that I'm here now. This feels much more comfortable rather than getting out there and doing networking and talking about what I do. But, you know, I soon realized that you get much more value from going out there and speaking to people, and then by then learning what you do, getting those referrals, and people understanding what you do. And I think also through talking about what you do to other people, you can get clearer on your own message and understand exactly what it is you want to do and why it is you do what you do. So, you know, one of my big challenges for this year, and which has improved for me, is actually getting out there and meeting people and just talking all the time about what I do in lots of different ways, finding the places where I'm going to find the people who I want to talk to, but also any circumstance, just going out there and talking with passion and authenticity about what I do. So yeah, I think I see it with other coach friends. We hide away. We don't want to go to networking events. We don't want to do this sort of stuff. It feels uncomfortable, but you know, we encourage our clients to go into the stretch zone with this stuff, and it's something that we've got to do ourselves. And I'm certainly feeling stretched doing that, but I know it's the right thing to do.
Damn it.
No escape.
No.
Yeah, okay. And then the last one, number 7, is look after your personal well-being. And, you know, this isn't just a thing for us as coaches. I think it's anybody who has their own business, because we spend so many hours working within our business because, you know, it's only us doing this. That, you know, one thing that you can neglect is looking after yourself. And, you know, self-care comes across so many different areas. Sometimes it's just having compassion for yourself, knowing that you don't have to be amazing all the time. But also sometimes it's the very practical stuff, you know, that around the healthy eating, exercise, doing stuff like keeping journals, meditation, all of these sort of things that will help look after and nourish ourselves. And, you know, one of the reasons I'm very passionate about well-being is because I recognize in a previous career the symptoms of burnout that I was experiencing there. You know, and it happens in the workplace if you're an employee, but it's also something that, you know, that you're particularly vulnerable to when you're trying to grow your own business, and you think more about your business than you do about yourself. But, you know, if you break, well, where's your business? And so it's so important to actually invest that time looking after yourself as well. Because, again, if we were working with clients, if well-being is something that we would always want to promote with them, and we need to do that for ourselves too.
I would think, because this is one of your niches. I mean, this is one of the foci for your practice, is about well-being. And so being sort of that walking, walking testimonial, a good example of someone doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I was at an event on Tuesday night, delivering to a men's yoga group, and the guy who set this up, he set this group up because, you know, men and mental health don't always have a great track record. Men are much less likely to feel open to talk about their feelings, especially in the UK, because we're much more reserved over here, and, you know, we try to hide things away. But, you know, the idea of this particular group is go out and do an hour of yoga, then have some food and be able to talk about, and, you know, just build that rapport and feel comfortable, and then do an hour of personal development. So for this time, I said, oh, let me do this one. So I went in, and there I did a session around self-care, and it was really nice, the feedback I got at the end of it. But I'll tell you, the comment that I got that made me smile the most is one of the guys at the end of it. He says, you know, I realize I've got many more good things in my life than I realized. You know, and sometimes it's just that realization that we have more than we actually think we have. It makes us feel better, and maybe that makes us more willing, more accepting that we are worth it, and we're worth spending that time investing in ourselves. We spend so much time looking after other people, the people we care about, but we need to look after ourselves as well.
Yes. Yeah. That seems really so important. What a great, number 7 of, because it seems like a lot of us who are in the caring professions can get burned out. We think we put everybody else first. Maybe I know I have in my life, and that's not sustainable. And so it sounds like that's a good important one.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's some research done over here, and people who do work in those more caring professions. I can't remember the stat now, but if you work in one of those particular areas, you are significantly much more likely to experience burnout than in a different type of area. Just because the type of people that we are, we want to look after other people, don't we? It's the very nature of the people who we are. So we need to show that love and compassion for ourselves as well.
Indeed. Wow. Well, I wish about 10 years ago I'd had your list. Those are beautiful things that, and they still apply.
What would be great for me is, those are my learnings from my almost 3 years working in coaching. From some of the other guys on the call, I'm really interested to hear, of these things that resonate from your coaching journeys, or are there things that resonate with you now? And just to kind of feel as to how many other people on the call can I share some of these things that I've gone through.
Well, I'll jump in with one more comment, Chris. Something that really resonated is number 2 in terms of spending as much time developing your business as your coaching skills and business skills. I think with the temptation to continue to acquire more skills and tools and certifications, it's so easy. And for me, I admit, unconsciously at times, if I just had this one more thing, then I'll really hit it, and I had a mentor just simply say, you have what's required now to be a great coach. So that's great. Continue to develop, but don't let that development have you stop, in just going out and being a coach. Like, you are a coach now. So this idea that it could be a little bit of a trap to keep the acquisition, and to just trust that our life experience, who we are now, is ample to do great work in this world without any additional training. So that balance is a great thing to point out. So thank you.
We are enough, aren't we? And sometimes we always think we need to be better, but we are actually enough. We've got loads of value that we can add already.
Thank you.
Who else? Looks like Will Fisher's dialing in.
I'd like to say thank you, Chris, for putting this together. And what I got out of it is you have a lot of balls to come on this call and talk to all of these seasoned coaches like you know something. And you do know something, and you have a fresh approach that we all can appreciate. And you may know I practice Taekwondo and I have a black belt. But one of the things that we enjoy a lot as black belts is practicing with white belts. We learn to do something with a new heart or with a new energy to it. And one of the things that I noticed about the list that you have is that a lot of coaches do not do number 6. They do not get out and talk to people. And one of the things I suggest to people is join a service organization like the Red Cross or something, and become the chairman. Run the fundraising campaign, be the boss, and everybody will see you. And they will say, wow, look at him. I'll bet he's a fantastic coach. You never have to do any marketing. They will be attracted to you just because they see you being yourself. And that's what I think is a really a good way for a potential client to look at you when you don't know you're being looked at. And I think with guys, especially gay coaches, we have such ability for charm and communication and sincerity that once people see you doing what you do, they're immediately attracted to you. So I appreciate this list, and I can't wait to see you in operation at the conference. Thank you.
Very, very.
I would love to express my gratitude too, if I may. This is Will calling in.
Hi, Will.
Hi, guys. I'm not one of the seasoned coaches that Harry mentioned. I agree with Harry, though. You had a lot of balls. That was really impressive. And as someone who is a little under a year in making coaching their primary career aim, I was just nodding my head seriously through the whole call. It really resonated with me so much. And I just appreciate how articulate and clear and insightful all of your pieces were. So thank you so much. Really appreciated this call.
It's great to hear, hear that, and I'm glad, as you say there, you were nodding throughout there, and I've tried to take learnings that are universal that I've come across from my own journey, but other people who are at a similar stage in their coaching career as well, and I'm really pleased that it resonated though, so thank you for that.
Great, thank you guys. Any other final questions for Chris before we move into our closing?
I just want to say thanks. You really gave me some great reminders. I love these. I saw a version of this not too long ago with another topic I work in, and they did a brand new staff person with somebody who was out the door on retirement, and they didn't talk to each other. And then when they put them both up, it was really fascinating to see the 30-year difference. But one of the things that I took away from for me, is really, I have no problem getting out. I'm out a lot. I'm socializing. But really what I need to do is get that other coach so that I have a responsibility to go and be in my networking head and not easily get diverted. And that there's that, if I have that accountability to say, okay, we're going to go to this networking event together, it means I'll do it. Otherwise, sometimes I'll just get so distracted and it becomes a social thing, or it just becomes something else, and the take home isn't as successful. So I really appreciate the reminder. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. And to echo Will a bit, Chris, as a new coach myself, again, it's so helpful to be reminded that what I'm going through is not unique. So the way that you created this, it's so comprehensive to the experience I'm having, and I imagine that some of the more senior and experienced coaches on here, this resonated both for their early stage of their process, but I imagine we're all in the process of becoming, every day and growth and what have you. So I imagine this, I know it resonated for me, and I imagine for everyone else on this call, no matter where we are in our coaching practice. So thank you again.